An alien emissary floated silently in orbit above Earth, its sleek craft cloaked from human detection. Through a shimmering display, the emissary studied the blue and green planet below, a place it deemed unremarkable in every sense. It was a member of a galactic federation tasked with evaluating civilizations for potential inclusion. Yet, this world, fragile, chaotic, and backward, seemed far from worthy. The emissary scanned archives of human activity, observing the disjointed nature of their existence. Primitive, it thought. Wars fought over resources and ideologies. Environmental degradation caused by negligence. A species riddled with contradictions, capable of remarkable ingenuity yet perpetually teetering on self-destruction. The emissary scoffed, a rare emotion for its kind. Their technology was laughable by galactic standards. No faster-than-light travel, no planetary unity, not even a basic grasp of interdimensional physics. Their societies were fractured, plagued by mistrust and division. As it reviewed a timeline of their achievements, the emissary felt no awe, only bemusement. This species has survived more by luck than design, it concluded, dismissing humanity as an anomaly, an evolutionary hiccup. Still, protocol demanded an evaluation, and the emissary was nothing if not meticulous. A simulation would determine their worth. It wasn't uncommon for the Federation to test emerging species by presenting them with a crisis. How they responded under duress revealed their true nature. Would they unite and rise, or fracture and fall? The emissary initiated preparations, its ship humming with energy as it prepared to simulate a series of escalating disasters. These tests were calibrated to push civilizations to their breaking point. For humanity, the emissary decided on a particularly ruthless scenario. A coordinated global catastrophe designed to strip away their comforts and expose their weaknesses. They will falter, it thought. They always do. There was no malice in this assumption, only cold logic. The emissary species had observed countless civilizations rise and fall, their fates sealed by their inability to adapt. To the emissary, humanity was no different. As it finalized the parameters, the emissary reflected on the Federation's criteria for membership. Strength, intelligence, unity, and resourcefulness, qualities humanity had yet to demonstrate on a global scale. The emissary found it difficult to believe they would surprise it. With the simulation ready, the emissary activated the sequence. A surge of invisible energy radiated from its craft, permeating Earth's atmosphere. The disasters would appear natural, their sudden onset explained by humanity's own lack of foresight. The emissary leaned closer to its display, eager to witness the inevitable descent into chaos. Let us see, it mused, how these fragile beings react when their world begins to crumble. There was no doubt in its mind. This was merely a formality, another failed species to be catalogued and forgotten. Yet, for reasons it could not fully articulate, the emissary felt the faintest twinge of curiosity. A fleeting question it quickly dismissed. Could they truly surprise it? The simulation began without warning. Across the globe, power grids collapsed, plunging cities into darkness. Communication systems faltered, leaving billions disconnected and isolated. Unnatural weather patterns spawned violent storms, flooding coastal regions and causing widespread panic. The world's infrastructure, so intricately woven, unraveled in mere hours. Panic spread like wildfire. Streets once filled with routine now teemed with confusion and fear. Crowds gathered around blank screens, desperate for information. Emergency services were overwhelmed, their resources stretched thin. Social order, fragile at the best of times, began to crack. People hoarded supplies, arguments turned to violence, and desperation hung in the air. The alien emissary observed the chaos with detached curiosity. It catalogued every reaction, every moment of fear, noting how quickly humanity seemed to unravel. This was precisely what it had anticipated, a species unprepared for true adversity. To the emissary, it was proof of their inferiority. In its reports, the emissary noted patterns. Large cities descended into chaos faster than rural areas. Governments struggled to respond coherently, their fragmented systems unable to coordinate on a global scale. The emissary saw humanity's reliance on technology as a weakness. Without it, they were exposed, vulnerable, and helpless. But even amidst the disorder, certain anomalies began to appear. In a coastal town devastated by flooding, a group of neighbors formed a human chain to rescue stranded families. Elsewhere, a firefighter refused to abandon his post despite the collapse of local services, rallying others to join his efforts. These moments were small, insignificant in the larger scheme, but they caught the emissary's attention. It observed as individuals stepped into leadership roles, often against insurmountable odds. A young engineer, stranded in her city's blackout, used her limited resources to restore power to a local hospital. In another region, a teacher gathered her students and turned an abandoned building into a shelter, organizing food and water distribution with remarkable efficiency. The emissary found itself intrigued by these outliers. They didn't fit the expected pattern. Where logic dictated self-preservation, these humans acted against their own interests, often risking their lives for others. It was illogical but undeniably effective. The larger picture remained bleak. Resources dwindled, tensions escalated, and humanity's flaws were on full display. Yet, these isolated acts of defiance hinted at something deeper, an undercurrent of resilience that the emissary could not fully quantify. As it continued its observations, a realization began to form. Humanity, for all its chaos and unpredictability, possessed a unique quality, an ability to adapt and persist, even when faced with overwhelming odds. The emissary recorded this in its notes, though it remained skeptical. Small moments of heroism were admirable but insufficient to prove the worth of an entire species. For now, it continued to watch, waiting for the inevitable collapse. And yet, for the first time, it hesitated in its certainty. There was something unsettling about these humans, something that defied easy categorization. As the days passed, the chaos began to shift. What initially seemed like inevitable collapse started to reveal something far more complex. Humanity, though battered and bruised, was far from broken. In small but steadily growing pockets, individuals and communities began to push back against the crisis. Scientists, engineers, and medical experts, often working with limited resources, collaborated across borders. Makeshift laboratories sprang up in abandoned warehouses and community centers. Using fragments of alien energy signatures detected during the disasters, teams of researchers reverse-engineered the technology behind the simulated catastrophes. Solutions were improvised with astonishing speed, rudimentary but effective. Across the world, people refused to succumb to despair. Grassroots organizations formed almost overnight, coordinating relief efforts through any means available. In one region, amateur radio enthusiasts re-established communication networks, linking isolated communities and providing vital information. Elsewhere, individuals pooled resources, setting aside personal differences to ensure everyone had access to food, water, and shelter. The emissary watched with growing unease. It had anticipated desperation, infighting, and collapse, not this sudden cohesion. Humanity's response defied its models, which predicted spiraling entropy. Instead, the species was organizing itself with a chaotic energy that bordered on brilliance. In the midst of the turmoil, moments of extraordinary ingenuity emerged. A team of high school students used scraps of salvaged electronics to build a prototype that could stabilize a damaged power grid. Farmers repurposed obsolete equipment to create irrigation systems for areas affected by the simulated droughts. A group of engineers hacked into satellite networks, re-establishing partial global communication to coordinate aid efforts. The emissary recorded every instance, its once dismissive tone now tinged with curiosity. This behavior was unprecedented, not because of its scope, but because of the sheer willpower driving it. Humanity's actions weren't motivated solely by survival, but by something deeper, something intangible. As the disasters continued, acts of selflessness and bravery became almost routine. Firefighters ventured into collapsing buildings to save strangers. Doctors worked tirelessly in overcrowded, understocked makeshift hospitals. Volunteers faced extreme conditions to deliver supplies to isolated regions. Each story was a thread, weaving together a tapestry of resilience. What struck the emissary most was the emotional component. Humanity's creativity wasn't purely logical or methodical. It was fueled by an intense, almost irrational determination to protect and uplift one another. They didn't just react to problems. They innovated, adapted, and refused to give in no matter the odds. For the first time, the emissary felt a flicker of doubt in its assessment. It had considered emotion a weakness, a liability that would doom humanity. Yet, here it was this very quality driving their strength. The emissary's calculations began to shift. Humanity wasn't following the trajectory of collapse. It was climbing, against all odds, towards something extraordinary. By the time the emissary recalibrated its models, it was no longer certain of the outcome. Humanity's progress was not linear or predictable, but it was undeniable. This species, for all its flaws, had proven one thing beyond doubt. It would not give up. The emissary reviewed its data, its once certain conclusions now muddled with uncertainty. The simulation was nearing its end, yet humanity's response had defied every expectation. What had begun as chaos had transformed into an unparalleled display of unity, ingenuity, and resilience. As systems stabilized and solutions spread, humanity began to rebuild, not just infrastructure but their sense of collective purpose. Governments that had initially faltered adapted swiftly, forging unprecedented alliances to pool resources and expertise. Rivalries that had spanned decades were set aside, replaced by a shared understanding that survival required cooperation. Leaders who had once been symbols of division now spoke of unity, their words carrying weight because they were echoed by the actions of their people. The emissary observed humanity's adaptability with a growing sense of awe. It was no longer just isolated individuals or small communities driving the recovery. The entire species seemed to shift its focus, aligning toward a singular goal: overcoming the crisis together. This level of coordination was rare, even among Federation members. Humanity's ability to organize, innovate, and inspire under such extreme circumstances was unprecedented. The final hours of the simulation brought moments that left the emissary genuinely astonished. A coalition of scientists unveiled a breakthrough device that not only neutralized the energy patterns causing the disasters, but also offered insights into manipulating similar technologies. The device was crude by galactic standards, but its creation in such a short time was nothing short of miraculous. More impressive than the technology, however, was the spirit behind its creation. The device was the result of collaboration among hundreds of minds, each contributing their unique skills and perspectives. No single person or nation claimed credit. It was humanity's achievement, a testament to their collective potential. When the simulation ended, Earth was not the same. The emissary noted that while humanity had been tested to its limits, the crisis had forged something new. Societies were stronger, more unified, and more determined than before. The emissary found itself struggling to reconcile this outcome with its earlier assumptions. Back aboard its ship, the emissary prepared its report for the Federation Council. It began with the facts: the disasters, humanity's initial disarray, and their remarkable recovery. But as it detailed the emotional depth, creativity, and resilience displayed by humanity, the emissary found itself advocating for their inclusion. They are imperfect, it admitted, but their imperfection is their greatest strength. They are adaptable because they must be. They are creative because they are flawed. They are united because they know what it means to struggle. The council's deliberations would take time, but the emissary had no doubt about its conclusion. Humanity had proven itself worthy, not because of their technology or sophistication, but because of their spirit. As the emissary's ship drifted away from Earth, it watched the planet one final time. It no longer saw a fragile, chaotic world. Instead, it saw a species capable of extraordinary things, a species that had earned its place among the stars.